The two rivers that became one. On Confluence. In a great plain, two rivers ran parallel for 1,000 miles. They had risen in different mountains, in different countries, on different sides of a great divide. They had crossed the divide by different passes. They had come down in their two long descents onto the same plain, and on the plain they had begun, against all the expectations of cartographers, to run parallel, perhaps a mile apart, on the same northward course. This was unusual. Rivers, in general, do not run parallel. They join, or they diverge, or one cuts off the other. These two, by some accident of geology, neither joined nor diverged. They ran beside each other for 1,000 miles, for as long as anyone could remember. The two rivers were different from each other. The first was a cold river. It ran from a glacier in the high mountains. Its waters were clear and very cold, and full of fast-swimming fish with silver scales. The fish were small and bony, but flavorful. The villages along the first river had been, for centuries, fishing villages of a particular kind, knowing the silver fish, building their houses on stilts because the cold river flooded in spring. The second was a warm river. It ran from a great spring in low hills, far from any glacier. Its waters were brown with silt and slow, and full of slow-swimming fish with brown scales. The fish were large and fleshy and oily. The villages along the second river had been, for centuries, fishing villages of a different kind, knowing the brown fish, building their houses on flat ground because the warm river rarely flooded. The two rivers had never, in the memory of anyone living, mixed. In a year that no one had predicted, the plain shifted. It shifted very slightly. A small earthquake in the night raised one part of the plain by perhaps the height of a man and lowered another part by perhaps the same height. No one was killed. The villages on both rivers slept through it. They woke the next morning and went about their work. But the rivers, by the second day, had bent. The first river, the cold one, had begun to drift eastward. The second river, the warm one, had begun to drift westward. They were drifting toward each other. By the second week, the rivers had begun, in places, to touch. By the second month, they had joined. They joined in a wide, flat place, perhaps 300 miles down their previously parallel course. The cold river ran into the warm river, or the warm river ran into the cold river. It was not entirely clear which had moved more. They became, after the joining, a single river, much wider than either of them had been before, mixing as they flowed, growing slowly more uniform in temperature and color as the joined waters ran northward toward the sea. The villages on both rivers were not, at first, prepared. The fish died. The silver fish in the new river could not breathe. The water was too warm for them, too still, too brown. They floated in great numbers in the first month after the joining. The brown fish in the new river could not breathe either. The water was too cold for them in the upstream sections, too clear, too fast. They also floated in great numbers. The fishing villages on both sides ate fish for a month from the surface of the river. Then there were no more fish. The villages starved. That winter, many died. In the spring, however, the survivors of the fish began very slowly to be visible in the new river. They were not silver and they were not brown. They were a kind of greenish bronze halfway between. They had the teeth of the silver fish, which had been in their old life hunting fish, sharp and quick. They had the scales of the brown fish, which had been in their old life slow river fish, thick and resilient. They had become, by some interbreeding the villages did not understand, a new kind of fish entirely. They moved through the new water with a kind of patience the silver fish had never had, and a kind of speed the brown fish had never had, and they thrived. The villages on both sides of the new river had by then also changed. The fishermen of the cold river, who had survived by eating the floating fish in the first month, had spent the winter in conversation with the fishermen of the warm river, whom they had previously despised. They had learned each other's methods. They had intermarried, by spring, in 3 cases. They had stopped, by summer, building their houses on stilts. They had also stopped, by summer, building their houses on flat ground. They had begun to build a third kind of house, with low stilts and reinforced foundations that would withstand both the spring floods of the cold river and the slow seasonal swelling of the warm river. By the second generation, the two kinds of villages had become one kind of village, and the new fish had become so abundant that the villages were prosperous in a way neither set of villages had been before. The old fishermen wept sometimes for the silver fish. The new fishermen, who had been born after the joining, knew nothing of the silver fish. They fished the new fish. They were happy with the new fish. The new fish was, by anyone's standards, a better fish. A child of the new generation asked her grandmother, who had survived the joining, "Was it worth it, grandmother?" The grandmother considered. "It was not in my power to decide," she said. "The rivers joined whether we wished it or not. Many died, many also lived. The new fish is better than either of the old fish. The new village is better than either of the old villages. I would not have chosen the year of the joining if I had been asked. I was not asked. The plains shifted. We survived. The world is now what it is. The silver fish are gone. The brown fish are gone. They live in some form in the new fish, in the teeth and in the scales. I am content. I would not, however, have chosen it. The choice was not mine." The child remembered this. She grew up to be a fisherwoman on the new river. She caught the new fish. She fed her own grandchildren on it. When her own grandchildren asked her, in their time, about the silver fish and the brown fish, she told them the story of the joining. They listened. They did not believe fully that the two rivers had once run parallel. The new river had run for so long by then that the parallel running was, in their village, a kind of myth. But the new fish had the teeth of one river and the scales of the other. The teeth and the scales were the proof. Two rivers that run parallel for 1,000 miles will, when the plane shifts, join. The joining is not chosen. The fish from each die in great numbers. The villages starve. The survivors interbreed. The new fish has the teeth of one and the scales of the other. It is better than either. The villages in time are prosperous. The old fishermen weep for the silver fish. The new fishermen know nothing of them. The work of the conjunction is not chosen. The work of the conjunction is survived.